Hi, this is Jonatha Brooke, and you're listening to Retrospectives with John Broughton on KC Radio 97.7 FM.
Depends on where you're sitting, on the company you keep.
Just to begin, how do you look back on some of your early songwriting efforts now, from a time when you first began to explore songwriting as a means of expression?
Well, I look back at the very early days, and I try to be patient with my younger self, because I think in the very beginning I was just so excited to be writing songs. I was so excited that I'd found this thing that I think I was meant to do, that I threw in everything and the kitchen sink whenever I could. So, just crazy vocals and crazy arrangements and crazy ranges. And it was like I was choreographing a troupe of vocal gymnasts, And I think over the years I've learned how to streamline the thought and the music and the intent. And I think less really is more.
Was there any particular songwriter or song that really hit a nerve with you and inspired you to think, wow, that's what I want to do?
Oh, there are so many. I think early on there were some Stevie Wonder songs that just slayed me, that I thought, I want to be able to do that. The emotional, All in Love is Fair, that kind of song.
Yeah.
And then, Rickie Lee Jones was a big influence, just because she was so adventurous and the range of her songs was so crazy, and I loved her production, how she heard things in the room. And so the one album in particular, the magazine, was a big influence on me. And then there's some just great funky songs like Ain't Nobody, that Chaka Khan made a big hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's a brilliant song, and I still can't get enough of it. So I like the intense, broody kinds of things, but I love a really rollicking pop song.
I believe you had ambitions to be a dancer at some stage, is that right?
Yeah, I was a dancer till I was about 30. I was a modern dancer, mostly in Boston. I think I was in almost every modern dance company in that city. And then I got a record deal, and I had to make a decision. So I took the record deal. And I think I quit. I had to quit 3 dance companies in one spring and sort of go on the road, and been doing that ever since.
Talk about your days in the story with Jennifer Kimball. How do you look back on that time now? What were your hopes and ambitions for that duo initially?
I think that I always have high hopes for whatever I'm doing. I have this little glimmer in my belly that always hopes that it will reach, as many people as it can and needs to, and that was no exception. And I think we came up in a really great time to be doing this. There were tons of clubs that were having acoustic evenings. There was this great folk circuit, and AAA radio. I don't know if you have that format there, but AAA radio was new, and we were the darlings of AAA radio. So it was very exciting to number one, to have come up with this really cool sound that no one else sounded like us, and we had this great stage banter and personas that we worked on, and it just sort of felt like, wow, this is awesome, and this is a really good time to be doing this. I think it's harder now. I can't imagine starting out now. I would find it very daunting to make a living, to have the kind of hopes and dreams that we did back then. I don't know, that sounds very cynical, but it's such a different playing field now.
Was there a particular catalyst that prompted you both to bring an end to the story? Was there just a desire within you both to pursue solo work?
It was, yeah. I was pretty strongly going a solo direction. I was writing constantly, and I loved being on the road, and I loved making records, and I have this energy. I'm I'm a little more intense in a way, and Jennifer's more homey and a little less driven than I, and wasn't writing and wasn't feeling fulfilled necessarily in the duo, and I just kept writing songs that, it felt like there wasn't enough of a place for her, and it wasn't going to be fun or fair, and so we parted, and I started my own solo kind of thing. But those are great days, and I love those records. So I still do many of those songs when I perform.
They are wonderful records. You're still in touch with Jennifer?
I haven't talked to her in a couple of years. She's living in Boston, and she's got a kid. That's one thing I didn't do. It just wasn't in my cards to have kids, so I just kept doing this. And she had more of a home life, I think, than I did. But actually, she pursued this. She had this passion for landscape design. So I think she does a fair amount of that as well. She's really gifted at it. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. You had a brief stint with major labels. You were with MCA there for a period, but they pretty much left you high and dry. What exactly happened there?
Oh God, it happened like 3 times. It happened with Elektra right when the Story album was top 5. A song called So Much Mine was really doing well with radio, and there was this regime change at the top. So the guy that had shepherded me, Tommy LaPuma, who signed us, was gone, and there was a new boss who didn't get us at all, just had no idea what to do with us, and we just had no champion there, so we got dropped, and that's also when I went solo. And then twice at MCA, once with Plum. Again, it was sort of a regime change thing. Tommy LaPuma actually signed me again because he lateraled over to MCA, reinstated Blue Thumb, a label that he'd started back in the 70s, and signed me again. And then that fell apart. So in the middle of one of those songs actually starting to do well at radio, I lost my footing. And then I made a third record for another label under the Universal umbrella, and the same thing happened again. Secrets and Lies was starting to chart at AAA radio, and my contract came up, and there was this sort of back and forth about me giving back money and not. It was just a long, stupid thing, and they basically dropped me and told radio to stop playing my song.
Ooh, nasty.
Like on a Friday was when my option came up for my next record, and I said, hey, well, I'm in the middle of a tour. My song is charting. Why don't we talk about me reducing the budget for the next record in 6 months? Let's see how this goes, and let's, in good faith, keep moving forward. And they never responded. So on Monday, I heard from all my pals at radio, like, MCA called us, and we're not allowed to play your single anymore. I'm so sorry. And there were notices on people's desks saying that they basically didn't exist.
Look,
so that's when I started my label. I said, well, I could do a better job than this. This is crazy. This is bull. So there you go.
So I guess looking back, would you consider it now like a blessing in disguise that losing that support prompted you to pretty much take control of your own destiny? Yeah,
it was a great kick in the butt for sure, and I have no regrets about those major label days too. I'm not cynical about it really, because it was a huge opportunity. Those 3 records were, we had incredible budgets. We made beautiful records. We got tour support. We made videos, albeit awful ones, but we made videos, and it was free money. It was really an awesome stretch of time where I wasn't having to figure out, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to travel with a band? It was this really great stretch where those labels, for all of their faults, really did help me reach a larger audience and establish myself in a way that made transitioning to indie doable.
Yeah.
I had an audience, I had a fan base, so I could actually do it, and I wasn't starting from scratch.
So for you, what have been the major pros and cons of running your own label?
Money. It's just really money.
Yeah.
I love the control. I love being able to do, the kinds of things I want when I want. I don't have to answer to anybody about creative choices. It's just, you have to recalibrate. You have to sort of lower your bar and be very, very candid with yourself about what you consider success. Do you need to be Britney Spears, or do you need to be Beyonce, or are you comfortable in the middle class of well-respected artists who do this year after year and carry on and make great work, and maybe don't sell more than 50,000 records, especially now that music is free, so no one's selling records.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sobering.
Talk about your songwriting. Is there a degree of difficulty that varies from song to song in the writing process? Are some songs more of a challenge to finalise than others, or is it pretty much the same process all the way through?
Oh my God, some songs are torture. Some songs are absolute torture, and they just will not yield. And the best ones are painless and quick, and you actually wonder, did I really write this, or am I stealing this? Because they appear out of thin air. You rush to write them down and sing them enough times so that you don't forget the idea, and then you're just super, super grateful. So, and those are a handful. I mean, over the years, I probably have 10 or 15 of those gift songs, I would call them, that really feel magic, like you just get out of the way. And then the other, I don't know, say 50% of the rest are just really hard work, and you have to get in there and keep at it and make it better and better, and not, don't let up, and don't fool yourself into thinking you're finished before you are. And then the other 50% are, they come along, and they're not so painful.
How do you know when a song is just right? Is there a criteria you use to tell you that this requires no more editing?
Often I'm in tears. That's my sort of test. If I'm crying, that's usually a good sign, because it has moved me in some way that I had no control over, whether it's just the chord changes or something emotionally, like I got it lyrically where I really hit a thing that, whether it's elliptical or obvious, it did it for me, at least in the pit of my belly. So often it's tears or this just very excited little glimmer. It's a physical thing for me of like, I think I got something.
Yeah.
I think this is a good one. Giddy up.
Talk about your most recent project, My Mother Has Four Noses. It would have been a deeply personal piece of work to put together. Can you take us through the emotions you would have experienced writing that?
It was very intense, and some of it I was writing as I was still caring for my mom, because my real life was pretty much on hold. I moved her in 2010. I was supposed to be making a new record, but it became clear that she needed me, so everything else got put on hold, and I took on her care for the next 2 years. And my instinct as a creative soul is always, well, let's make art out of whatever's happening. And so in the tiny spaces of time when I wasn't actually on the front lines with her, I was just writing stuff down. I was creating when I could in the spaces. And even from the early days, I had this idea, and she was kind of complicit in it. She would say, "Are you getting this down? This is really good material. We should take it to Broadway." And I would be like, "Well, that's so weird, Mom." "Yeah, I am. I'm right. You're right. This is precious, precious stuff, and I love you so much. And this is going to be hard, but I think there's something here that's maybe bigger than my next record." And it was. It turned into this theater piece that, yes, the record is a Jonatha record, but it does sort of take you through those 2 years in a way, musically. And I just actually got back from Arkansas. I did my one-woman play there last weekend, and it's hard and it's emotional, but it's funny, and it resonates with people because everybody relates to some piece of this story. Everybody's been a caregiver or will be or has a crazy aunt or a crazy brother, and we're all going to be telling this story in some way. And I think that by telling it in this very funny, candid way, but with beautiful music weaving in and out, it softens the blow and it declassifies the really scary stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm all out, man. I'm talking about poop management. I am talking about crazy stuff that happened that, you can't believe unless it happens to you, or you see the pictures that I'm showing you of my mother. But people really respond. It gives them permission to laugh and cry about their own stuff.
Yeah. So it wasn't originally intended to be a stage show. That's something that became apparent to you during the writing process.
Yeah. Yep. I had a few songs, and then I started writing stories. And I sent them to this director friend of mine in Pittsburgh, Tracy Brigden. And I said, Tracy, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm writing that down. And I think it might be theater, but you're going to have to tell me because you're a director and I'm just a songwriter. But I think it's a story that needs to be told, yes, partly in music, but I think there's live theater in it. And tell me if I'm on the right track. And she said, oh, my God, this is something, and I'm putting you in my new play festival, and it's June of 2012. And I said, oh, okay, if you think so. I've never done this before, but I trust you. She said, you have to do this. So Mom died in January, and I went on stage in June with this new play.
Obviously, I haven't seen the play, but the album has a real intimate feel to it, which is perfect for the personal nature of the material. Was that your intent right from the beginning, to strip it right down like that? Yeah,
it needed to be very intimate and chamberish. I wanted sort of sweet, soft instrumentation and beautiful arrangements and a sort of gentle trajectory through it all. So the arrangers did a just beautiful job. Gil Goldstein did some arrangements, and Rob Mathis did a few of the arrangements. And when I do perform it live, I have similar instrumentation, but even more stripped down. I just have electric guitar and cello, and they weave in and out of the songs. And I've also created underscore that comes in under some of the storytelling to make it either funnier or more poignant or whatever it calls for.
Once you'd finished writing that project, was it difficult to step back into regular songwriting mode again?
It was very hard.
Yeah?
Yeah. It was very hard because, that was an all-consuming couple of years, honing in on the final version of it and then bringing it to Off-Broadway. We did a 12-week run Off-Broadway on 42nd Street, and that was one of the most scary, intense things I've ever done, because I had never, yes, it's my story, but I am acting, and I never considered myself an actor before, and so I had to sort of get over that terror. And then I'm basically on 42nd Street. I'm right across from Lion King, and Spider-Man was just finishing up. There's my little one-woman musical called My Mother Has Four Noses right next door, and I could barely breathe the first few nights when I went out. I was just like, what the fuck am I doing here? Whose idea was this, Mom? And then it just became like when the audiences heard it and when they recognized themselves in the story and they saw how funny it could be, and I don't know, it was reassuring. And then finishing that up was like, well, now what do I do? That's the biggest, hardest thing I've ever done. Like, how do you do whatever's next? So I went directly into writing another musical, which sort of helped. I was working on a bigger piece with Joe Sample, and he passed away later that year. So there was sort of a urgency to that, which helped me get over the depression of like, no, who am I? So I got to work on this other musical, and then slowly this year, it became apparent that, okay, I need to get back and do some normal stuff. I need to get back to my, what I've always done. I make
Yeah.
records and I tour, and I want to make a living again, and I got to get back out there. And so Midnight Hallelujah kind of came out strangely painlessly.
Another project of yours I love is The Works, where just like Billy Bragg and Wilco, you were given access to the unpublished lyrics of Woody Guthrie. Tell us about the process there and how you tackled it.
That was awesome. It was really like just getting on a freight train. It was the most pain-free writing stretch I've ever had. It was almost as if Woody was in the room with me.
Mm.
So I'd go to the archives like a straight job every day for a couple of weeks, and I would just pour through his journals and notebooks and these folders of lyrics that they have beautifully kept there. And I would talk to his daughter, Nora, and I would say, well, what do you think, Nora? How about this one? She'd be like, I think you should try this one. And she'd point me to the more romantic stuff that she knew where it was hidden. And then I would bring, I think I asked for like 60 of the pieces and bits of stuff that he'd written to bring home and just work on. And every day I would sort of go into my little room and I'd pour through almost like a Ouija board. I would sort of close my eyes and put my finger into the stack of papers that I had, and I'd point at one, and I swear to God, songs would just descend. They would come right away. Once I had the words in front of me, the melodies would just make themselves apparent, and the words would tell me what to do. And the best part was Nora's generosity with what I would call the cutting and pasting. So I would find a couplet in a journal from 1946 that was just an incredible gem, and then I would pair it with a scribble from 1957, and it would turn into this beautiful song. And I would worry, okay, is this going to be okay? And Nora would say, yes, this is awesome. Do what you need to do, because Woody would love it, and you don't need to worry about him. He'll be fine. This is your record.
Okay.
So that was a lovely, really amazing trust and vote of confidence.
So you weren't caught up too much in thinking to yourself and worrying, oh, well, how would Woody finish this?
Right. I could cut and paste and find little bits and pieces that would bring it into my world and make it more satisfying for me, because I'm not really a folk songwriter. I'm not someone who will write 20 verses and have no chorus and no bridge. That doesn't satisfy me musically.
Yeah.
So I took liberties with the bits and pieces that I would find here and there, and created new sections in songs that were more linear that way, and it was really exciting. It was like digging for treasure.
And how cool to have a co-songwriting credit with Woody Guthrie.
Not bad.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Actually, there's one song that I didn't finish before the Works came out, and so I loved it so much that I put it on this new record.
Oh, great. You've seen your songs picked up and included in film and in television. What does that sort of validation and recognition mean to you, aside from obviously helping to pay the bills?
I wish it would happen more often, and those opportunities don't pay as much as they used to, sadly. It's, musicians we've become so desperate to get our stuff out there that we've sort of sold ourselves down the river by lowering our fees, which is a bummer to me. That I think we should all sort of make a coalition and stand up for getting paid. But
yeah. It
is awesome when you hear, I wrote the theme song for this Joss Whedon show called Dollhouse. That was really cool, to think that he sort of singled me out. He called me to say, hey, I would love for you to write this song. I think you're the perfect combination of things. And that was really exciting. And then having this, there's a song on a Peter Pan movie that has been a big song for me. That was really exciting too, because it is validating, when your song becomes a big part of the piece itself. And in that particular movie, I think my song was what anchored the story in a way, and they kept changing directors and producers and scripts, but my song was the constant that they kept saving.
Yeah.
So that was really sweet.
a great supporter of yours through the years, particularly in the studio, has been Bob Clearmountain. What is it about Bob that makes him such a joy for you to work with?
I think it's that we hear things similarly. Like whatever it is, technically I can't probably speak to it, but whatever it is that he does to my voice, and however he sort of places it in the center of the mix and then feeds in the other elements around it, is so much the way I want to hear it, that it's a great joy to be in the studio. It's almost like we don't even have to speak. I'll go away and sort of do other stuff, and then I'll come back in when he's got a mix up, and I'll just be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did this exactly. That's exactly how I was hoping it would sound." I was hoping you'd put the clarinet over here, and I was hoping that you'd pull out this drum part in the bridge and do some weird schmutz on it and send it flying with delays. And I just love what you did with the vocal in the last chorus, where you added this slap, and it's like that. It's just we've worked together on so many records now. It's like we have this sort of understanding of how it should sound before we even get there.
How would you describe a typical Jonatha Brooke audience? Do you have a handle on your general demographic of your fan base, and has it altered much over the years?
Well, more and more there are like two generations.
Okay.
There are these all these teenagers coming now that grew up listening to me because their moms and dads were big fans. So, and it's something that they share, which is very sweet.
That's a good thing, yeah.
They'll all come together, and as much as it makes me feel like, oh my God, am I old? I still feel like I'm 12. At the same time, it's a really beautiful thing to see, because these kids know every word, which is very flattering to me when they could be listening to Taylor Swift, but they're listening to me. So I think, there those teens, and then college-y age ones, and then I guess the bulk of people are probably late 30s up to 60s.
Yeah.
My main group.
And just before I let you go, upcoming plans. What have we got to look forward to?
Well, the new record's coming out October 21st. Did we send you a link, or did you?
Not as yet, no.
Oh, bummer. I should send that to you.
Please do, yeah, absolutely.
So I'll send you a link for that. It's released October 21st. I leave Friday for some touring, so I'm going to be on the road for most of October. What else? I'm working on another new musical with a playwright from LA called Jeffrey Knopfs. And I can't think of anything else.
That sounds busy.
Enough.
That sounds busy enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrific. Hey, thank you so much for your time, Jonatha. It's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you.
Well, thank you so much for even knowing who I am.
Oh, no, we know who you are. We'd love to see you down here in the Land of Oz one day. It'd be fantastic.
I know. When I was on the major labels, they were going to send me there back in the Plum and 10 Cent Wing days, and it just never happened.
Oh, well. It's not too late.
Someday. Like, all my musicians I play with are Australian. Ben Butler and Joe Laurie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully
in fact, Joe's singing with me in a couple of weeks. I have a big radio gig up here, and I got Joe Laurie on background vocals.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be here waiting for you when the time comes.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much, Jonatha. All the best.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Cheers.